You were never supposed to hear about this. They scrubbed it from your history books, buried it beneath polite lies and photographs that don't match the screams behind them. Between 1854 and 1929, over 250,000 children were loaded onto trains in America, not for family reunions, not for summer holidays, but to vanish. They called it the Orphan Train Movement. It sounds innocent, even noble, but behind the name was a cold, systemic operation, a machinery of silence that swept poor, immigrant, and undesirable children off the streets of cities like New York, Boston, and Chicago, and scattered them across the country like unwanted mail. No birth certificate, no legal tracking, just a number, a name that could be changed on arrival, and a body made to work. This was not just about finding homes. This was a human sorting system, a supply chain of forgotten souls. These children weren't adopted. They were inspected like livestock at public fairs, handed over to strangers and expected to labor without question. If they cried, they were punished. If they resisted, they were beaten. If they disappeared, no one asked where. And here's the darkest part. Many of them weren't orphans. They had parents, but poverty, immigration raids, or state corruption ripped them apart. Why? Because a nation was being re-engineered from the inside out. And children, the most programmable minds, were the easiest to manipulate. You think your freedom began at birth? This country was designed with psychological control in its DNA. You're about to see how far back it goes. They called it placement. But what really happened was distribution, like sending out defective goods from a broken factory. The children who arrived on these orphan trains didn't step into families. They stepped into systems, into farms, factories, and households that needed free labor more than they needed love. No background checks, no safety nets, just a handshake and a silent agreement. You work, you eat, you disobey, you disappear. By the time a child was 10, he was already broken in, conditioned to obey, to suppress emotion, to serve. This was not about giving a child a better life. This was about creating obedient citizens, moldable, grateful, dependent. You think they stopped with children? Look closer. The orphan trains were the beta test, a mass-scale psychological experiment. Strip away identity, erase roots, remove protection, then program what remains. Today it's more subtle, but it's the same blueprint. Instead of trains, it's media. Instead of workhouses, it's cubicles. Instead of beatings, it's dopamine loops. But the outcome is identical. A population that doesn't ask why. They taught those children to never speak unless spoken to be thankful for scraps, to smile through suffering, to never fight the hand that fed them, even if it choked them. And those patterns passed on through generations, through parenting, through policy. This is not just a tragedy. This is a template, a ritual of power disguised as charity. And here's what they fear most. A man who remembers, a man who wakes up, a man who sees the pattern and breaks it. If you've made it this far, you are that man. Comment the phrase, "I remember the erased." Say it again. I remember the erased. To honor their silence. To rewrite your own code. You're not done falling. They didn't just erase their homes. They erased their names. Most of these children, once placed, were renamed on arrival. Their past, gone. Their identity, rewritten. Their memories, unwelcome. Do you understand what that does to the mind? It doesn't just cause pain, it causes amnesia. Deep, unconscious amnesia. The kind that makes you doubt your worth. The kind that makes you easier to mold. It wasn't just about survival. It was about obedience through forgetfulness. Because when a man forgets who he was, he becomes who they tell him to be. Many of these boys grew into broken men, quiet, dutiful, emotionally numb. Many of the girls became compliant wives or domestic workers, programmed for silence. The ones who resisted, they were discarded. Some disappeared entirely. No records, no investigations, no headlines. But their silence echoes. And it didn't end there. This silent war continued, through boarding schools for Native children, through eugenics policies, through urban reforms masked as progress. Always the same formula. Break the roots, shape the mind, control the future. The orphan trains may be gone, but the system, it evolved. Today's man is distracted, sedated, endlessly seeking approval from systems designed to starve him. But now you're remembering, aren't you? You feel it in your bones, that something was stolen from you long ago, not just history, but power. And that's why they buried this story. Because if men knew the truth, if they remembered what was done to their bloodline, they might stop obeying. They might stop working for crumbs. They might start reclaiming what was never truly lost. You've seen the design. Now prepare to shatter it. Now you know the truth. Not the version spoon-fed in classrooms. Not the sanitized headlines or heroic statues. You've seen the real machinery. The orphan trains, the name erasures, the generational chains hidden behind polite words and church smiles. And here's the final revelation. You are their descendant. Maybe not by blood, but by system. You were born into the aftermath of a psychological war, raised in the smoke of stolen names and shattered lineages, conditioned to obey invisible rules you never agreed to. You were taught to chase approval, to fear your own voice, to worship comfort over clarity. But now the code is cracked. The ghost children whisper through your bones, and the moment you heard their story, your story changed too. Because awakening isn't poetic. It's brutal, it hurts, it burns away the false comfort. But in its ashes, something ancient rises. Not the child who is broken, but the man who remembers, the man who sees the pattern and rejects it. So what do you do now? You stop waiting for permission. You stop apologizing for your power. You look the system in the eye and say, I remember the erased. And then you become what they tried to prevent. A sovereign mind, a builder of legacies, a protector of truth. The orphan train was meant to erase them, but it failed. Because you're still here, and now you carry their memory, with fire. If this shook something awake inside you, like the video, subscribe and comment. I remember the erased again. Not for the algorithm, but to mark your resurrection. You've just crossed the threshold, and there's no going back.